Now this RJS Mango Dragon Fruit Lemonade is definitely much more like a wine cooler than actual wine. It's still very delicious, easy drinking, and a really easy kit actually to put together. Now first thing you do in step number 1 here, just following the instructions on this one with a couple of modifications right close to the end, but pretty much just following the recipe on this one. As usual, taking the bentonite here, getting that shook up and dissolved before I even start with the ingredients in the kit. Now I do add a kettle of hot water here. The reverse osmosis water that I am using was coming out quite cold, and I figured I better get that temperature up just a little bit and closer to the kind of like that 20°C mark where the yeast likes to thrive. This juice bag actually did pour well for me. I ended up with nothing on myself, which is a big surprise. After I've got the juice bag emptied out and kind of get most of it out into the carboy, I'll take and put the reverse osmosis in there, maybe a liter or two. Give it a swish and just try to get all of that juicy goodness into my primary. I did get some on my fingers here, and I would strongly recommend doing so. It tastes delicious. As you can see, it's like nothing more than like maybe 2 rinses, and that bag of primary juice is totally clean. On this pail here, I just fill up to the line, and that's pretty good. Seems to be pretty good for any of the kits that I've been doing to get me the right quantity for the 5-gallon carboys in secondary, and allows me to leave the sediment behind. Starting gravity reading here looks like about a 1.058, maybe a 1.060, which is definitely in the range for the instructions. Now what I started doing too is I put the lid on with the airlock, and the lid's not fastened here, but just bring it to whatever station or place it's going to sit. That way when I sprinkle the yeast on, it does stay on top and give that yeast a chance to set and get going. That's really it for day number 1 with this one. There's quite a bit of work there to get the primary going, but nothing else or no other user intervention is required until day 14. Now, first thing it says on the instructions here, the specific gravity needs to be 0.998 or lower before you proceed, and mine was exactly at 0.998. So before I clean and sanitize, get everything ready, and all my carboys set up, you definitely want to check to make sure that that's in range. I didn't do as good of a job on this one getting the total quantity of juice out, but once you kind of get what you get and you get air into your siphon hose, that is what it's going to be. As you can see, like there's quite a bit of headspace room here, and I could have benefited from that remaining quantity of juice, but I mean, whatever. Now I'll stir and degas until most of the bubbles are off the side. First up is the sulfite packet that's going to go into the carboy. And there's a lot of steps to do on this one. A lot of things we're going to add, like the 2 packets of potassium sorbate. And after I'm adding any ingredient here, everything's going to get a good stir. So you'll see a lot of that stirring in between just to prove that I actually did it. I also did notice after the potassium sorbate went in, I started getting bubbles on the side of the carboy again. So I gave it another stir until those bubbles all disappeared to make sure it was degassed. Now this thing's got a pretty good size bag of sweetener, syrup, whatever you want to call it, conditioner. It's very thick, and you can see that I'm kind of having to be very patient here getting this into the carboy. I also found that if I cut the corner off, I'm finding the pouring thing going a little bit easier. So I've been cutting off the corners instead of popping the lids on these sweetener packets or sweetener bags. You can also fold them up to really squeeze the last bit of goodness out of them. Strongly recommend you get that on your fingers. It is delicious. Also put a towel down to make sure you catch any drips if you've got. This stuff is insanely sticky. Once you got that all stirred in, the Kiesosol goes in. You stir that in, give it 5 minutes. Then it's the Chitosan. Stir that all in. Give that another 5 minutes. And then finally, when that's all done, and yeah, you give it another 5, you go with the final packet of Kiesosol. You'll notice here that I'm using just a microfiber, small little microfiber cloth. And that's just so I can leave the spoon in there and I'm not dripping that sticky juice all over the place in my kitchen. Once you got those ingredients all in, backed with the airlock, and you're just going to set it in a comfortable place for you, because it's going to sit there for another number of days. So far everything was just exactly following the instructions, nothing fancy. This is kind of where it changes here. I do always try to bring my primary, secondary, or any of my carboys that I plan on siphoning onto the counter at least a day prior to me siphoning. This one I pulled onto the counter, left it for a day, and this is the additional step that I did here. I siphoned this one off again into another carboy, and the reason I did that is I know I'm going to be bottling these things on my own. This lets me just totally not have to worry about any sediment in the bottom of the carboy. And when it comes time to bottle, I can just put that siphon in there, get it started, and I kind of just can suck everything out of there right to the bottom. Now, we did cheat a little bit at this step. I did pull off 2 wine glasses here. We gave it a taste already. It's not actually totally done. But the smell and the aroma coming off this stuff, it just smelled way too good. So we had to give it a quick little try. Delicious, but definitely wait a little longer. It's super, super green tasting. On to bottling day here. And the success of this depends largely on the setup and just getting absolutely everything ready before you even start the siphon. You can see I've got the carboy, corkers there. Corks have been soaking for a while. I've even taken and put some water on the stove to get that totally ready for doing the shrink caps after the bottling is done. If you do plan on doing a larger bottle too, I find that's a good first bottle to do. It just buys you a little time to get yourself comfortable, move stuff around a little bit if you need to get everything where you need to be proficient. It's a little bit busy, but it's definitely not bad doing this by yourself. This is probably batch number 4 or 5 that I've done totally by myself. And I've got a pretty good system, got a pretty good rhythm going here. It doesn't feel crazy, doesn't feel anything. It's just, you just have to have everything in the right place and have it set up. I found probably the most common thing the first couple of times is I kept not leaving enough space on the towel I've got beside my corker there, just to make sure that I have enough room for the full bottles. This one does actually end up going right to capacity. I did get a full 28 bottles. The one was the big one, the 1.5 liter, and then I ended up with kind of like a little partial. It was just about full. Anything that you have left over in the carboy, pour that in a glass. Don't pour that down the drain. That is your reward for bottling your wine right there. You can see some of the bottles here are sticky as I'm putting the caps on. And I did end up with this one partial, as I mentioned earlier. I'm just going to go chuck that into the fridge. And that's going to be some sipping wine just whenever. At the time of making this video, it's already gone. I do have a little difficulty with the shrink caps here. For whatever reason, these white caps seem to be a little bit different. They do end up shrinking on better than the other colors that I've used, and I think I'll probably be going with them. More of a plasticky, less papery, if that's a good way to describe it, but it took me a little bit to kind of figure out how to get that done.
Yeah, it's a bit better. These seem to shrink a lot more slowly than the other colors that I've done. Yeah, you definitely have to give them more time. Yeah, that's a good result. Pretty happy with that. Yeah, that's working. The key just seems to be more time. That's a nice, tight, snug fit. I'll see if I can fix that other one. Hey, look at that. Just let it sit a little bit longer, and we fixed it right up.
All right, bottling is all done, so what better way to reward myself than drink the bottom of the carboy? Oh, that goes down way too easy. This one won't need much age, I don't think, even like 2 months. It's very drinkable now already and quite delicious. Kind of like a lemony, I don't know, like a blend of some kind of lemonade and a fruit juice. Very delicious. This one will be gone quickly.